Listen to me. This is your life. Not your mama's, not your teachers, not your bosses, yours. Then the moment you realize that, everything changes. We live in a world where people love to point fingers. It's because of where I was born. It's because nobody helped me. It's because I didn't get the opportunity. No, nobody owes you success. Nobody owes you greatness. But you owe yourself everything. You owe yourself discipline when you don't feel like it. You owe yourself effort when you're tired. You owe yourself belief when nobody else claps for you. Because at the end of the day, when the lights go off, when the crowd is gone, when the excuses run out, it's just you. And let me tell you something. Average people blame. Winners adjust. You can't control your past. You can't control who doubted you, but you can control what you do next. Stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop waiting for somebody to save you. You are the rescue if you want success as bad as you want to breathe. Then you'll stop talking and start working. You'll wake up earlier. You'll push harder. You'll stay longer because you understand something powerful. Nobody is coming. And that's not sad. That's liberating. Because if nobody is coming, that means it's on you. That means you're in control. That means your future's in your hand. So I need you to make a decision. No more excuses, no more blaming, no more waiting. From this day forward, you take responsibility for your life. 100%, no shortcuts, no complaints. Because you owe you greatness, you owe you discipline, you owe you success. Now go get it. Total ownership means you stop negotiating with reality and start accepting your role in it. It's the moment you realize that whether life has been fair or unfair, whether people supported you or doubted you, whether opportunities came your way or passed you by, you are still responsible for what happens next. That shift is not easy because it removes the comfort of excuses. It forces you to look in the mirror and admit that where you are right now is, in some way, connected to your decisions, your habits, your mindset, and your actions. A lot of people misunderstand responsibility. They think it means blaming themselves for everything that's ever gone wrong. That's not what this is. Total ownership is not about guilt. It's about control. It's about recognizing that even if you didn't create every problem in your life, you are responsible for solving it. That distinction changes everything because it puts the power back in your hands. When you stop saying this happened to me and start saying this is on me to fix, you move from being a victim of circumstances to being a creator of outcomes. The truth is, most people resist ownership because it's uncomfortable. It's easier to blame your environment, your past, your lack of resources, or other people. Blame gives temporary relief. It gives you something to point at so you don't have to look inward, but it also keeps you stuck. Because if the problem is always outside of you, then the solution is also outside of you. And that means you're waiting. Waiting for someone to change, waiting for circumstances to improve, waiting for luck, waiting for permission. And while you're waiting, time is moving. Ownership eliminates waiting. It forces action. When you take full responsibility, you stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what am I going to do about it? That question is powerful because it demands a response. It doesn't allow you to sit still. It doesn't allow you to stay comfortable. It pushes you into motion, and motion is where progress lives. Think about the areas of your life where you feel stuck. Maybe it's your finances, your health, your career, your education, or your mindset. It's easy to look at those areas and find reasons why things aren't working. Maybe you didn't have the right guidance. Maybe you made mistakes. Maybe you've been overlooked. All of that might be true. But ownership asks a different question. What are you doing now? Because no matter how valid your reasons are, they don't change your results. Only your actions do. When you embrace total ownership, your language changes. You stop saying, I can't, and start saying, how can I? You stop saying it's their fault and start saying, oh, what could I have done differently? You stop saying, I'll try, and start saying, I've tried, and start saying, I will. That shift in language reflects a deeper shift in mindset. It shows that you are no longer avoiding responsibility. You are stepping into it. Ownership also means holding yourself accountable even when no one is watching. It means doing what needs to be done, not just when you feel motivated, but especially when you don't. Because the truth is, feelings are unreliable. There will be days when you don't feel like working, learning, improving, or pushing yourself. On those days, ownership is what keeps you moving. It reminds you that your goals don't care about your mood. Your future doesn't adjust based on how you feel today. It is shaped by what you do consistently. One of the hardest parts of ownership is admitting when you are the problem. Not every obstacle comes from outside. Sometimes it's your habits. Sometimes it's your discipline. Sometimes it's your fear, your procrastination, your lack of focus, or your unwillingness to step outside your comfort zone. Facing that truth requires honesty, and honesty requires courage. But once you identify the real issue, you can start fixing it. You can improve what you refuse to acknowledge. Ownership is also about standards. When you take full responsibility, you stop lowering your standards to match your behavior. Instead, you raise your behavior to match your standards. You don't let yourself off the hook easily. You don't accept mediocrity from yourself. You push for better, even when no one else expects it from you. Because you understand your standards determine your results. Another important aspect of ownership is consistency. It's not about making one big decision and changing everything overnight. It's about making small, disciplined choices every single day. It's about showing up when it's hard, when it's boring, when it's repetitive. Because success is not built in moments of excitement, it's built in moments of consistency. And consistency is a direct result of ownership. When you truly believe that your life is your responsibility, you don't wait for motivation. You create habits. Ownership also removes entitlement. You stop expecting things to be handed to you. You stop thinking you deserve success just because you want it. Instead, you focus on earning it. You understand that results come from effort, from persistence, from learning, and from growth. You stop comparing your journey to others and start focusing on your own path. Because ownership is personal. It's not about what others are doing. It's about what you are doing. There will be moments when ownership feels heavy. Moments when you wish someone else would step in and fix things for you. Moments when the responsibility feels overwhelming. But those are the moments that matter the most. But because that weight is also a sign of control. It means you have the ability to influence your future. It means your actions matter. And that's a powerful position to be in, even if it doesn't always feel comfortable. Ownership also builds resilience. When you stop blaming others, you stop being fragile. You stop breaking down every time something goes wrong. Instead, you adapt. You learn. You adjust. You become stronger because you are no longer avoiding responsibility. You are embracing it. And every time you take ownership and push forward, you build confidence. Not the kind of confidence that comes from external validation, but the kind that comes from knowing you can rely on yourself. It's important to understand that ownership is not a one-time decision. It's a daily practice. Every day you will be faced with choices. Choices to take responsibility or to make excuses. Choices to act or to delay. Or choices to grow or to stay the same. And every time you choose ownership, you strengthen that mindset. You make it easier to choose it again the next time. Ownership also changes how you view failure. Instead of seeing failure as something to avoid, you see it as something to learn from. You don't run from mistakes, you study them. You ask what went wrong, what you could have done differently, and how you can improve. Because when you take responsibility, failure is no longer something that defines you. It becomes something that teaches you. Another powerful aspect of ownership is that it eliminates excuses before they even form. When something doesn't go as planned, your first instinct is not to justify it, it's to fix it. That mindset saves time and energy. Instead of spending hours explaining why something didn't work, you spend that time finding a way to make it work next time. Ownership also influences the people around you. When you take responsibility for your life, you set a standard. You show others what it looks like to be accountable, disciplined, and driven. You become an example, not through words, but through action. And that kind of influence is powerful because it's real. At its core, total ownership is about freedom. It might seem like responsibility limits you, but it actually does the opposite. It frees you from dependence on others. It frees you from waiting. It frees you from excuses. It gives you the ability to shape your own path. to make your own decision, and to create your own results. And the reality is, no one is coming to take that responsibility for you. No one can live your life for you. No one can do the work for you. No one can make the decisions for you. That responsibility is yours, whether you accept it or not. The only difference is that when you accept it, you gain control. When you reject it, you give that control away. So every day you have a choice. You can blame or you can own. You can wait or you can act. You can stay where you are or you can move forward. And that choice, repeated over time, determines everything. Because at the end of the day, total ownership is not just about responsibility. It's about power. It's about realizing that your life is not something that just happens to you. It's something you actively create, one decision at a time. Excuses are one of the most dangerous habits a person can develop because they feel harmless in the moment. They sound reasonable, they feel justified, and they often come wrapped in logic that makes you believe you are being realistic. But the truth is, every excuse you make quietly chips away at your potential. It doesn't destroy your progress all at once. It slows you down just enough to keep you stuck, just enough to keep you from becoming who you could be. At first, excuses don't look like a problem. They look like explanations. You tell yourself you're too tired, too busy, not ready yet, not skilled enough, not supported enough. You say the timing isn't right, the conditions aren't perfect, or the opportunity isn't there. And sometimes those things are real. Life does get hard. Energy does run low. Circumstances do get complicated. But excuses take those real challenges and turn them into permanent barriers. They take temporary discomfort and turn it into long-term stagnation. The reason excuses are so powerful is because they protect your ego. They give you a way to avoid responsibility without feeling like you're failing. Instead of saying, I didn't do what I was supposed to do, you say, I couldn't do it because of this reason. That small shift in language makes a big difference psychologically. It allows you to feel okay about not taking action. It removes the urgency. It removes the pressure. And in doing so, it removes the growth. But growth never happens inside comfort. Growth happens when you push past resistance, when you act despite difficulty, when you do what needs to be done, even when you don't feel like doing it. Excuses rob you of those moments. They give you an easy way out when things get tough. And the more you use them, the more natural they become. Eventually, they stop feeling like choices and start feeling like truth. One of the most dangerous forms of excuses is the one that sounds the most logical. The kind that makes sense to you and to others. You say you'll start when you have more time, when you have more money, when you have better resources, when you feel more confident. And on the surface, those things seem reasonable. But if you look deeper, you'll realize that those conditions are rarely perfect. There will always be something missing, something uncertain, something uncomfortable. If you wait for everything to align, you will spend your life waiting. Excuses also create a pattern of delay. You tell yourself, I'll do it tomorrow, and tomorrow becomes next week, next month, next year. Over time, those delays add up. Opportunities, they pass. Momentum disappears. And what could have been progress turns into regret. The scary part is that this doesn't happen suddenly. It happens gradually. So gradually that you barely notice it until you look back and realize how much time has been lost. Another problem with excuses is that they shift your focus away from solution. When you're busy explaining why something can't be done, you're not thinking about how it could be done. Your mind becomes trained to look for obstacles instead of opportunities. You become more aware of what's wrong than what's possible. And that mindset limits your creativity, your problem-solving ability, and your willingness to take risks. No excuses doesn't mean ignoring reality. It doesn't mean pretending that challenges don't exist. It means refusing to let those challenges define your actions. It means acknowledging the difficulty, but choosing to move forward anyway. It means saying that it's hard, but I'm still going to do something about it. That mindset is what separates people who make progress from those who stay stuck. There will always be reasons not to act. You will always be able to find a justification for waiting, for quitting, for doing less than you're capable of. The difference is whether you accept those reasons or challenge them. When you adopt a no excuses mindset, you start questioning your own limitations. You start asking yourself if the reason you're giving is truly valid or just convenient. And more often than not, you'll realize it's the latter. One of the hardest things about eliminating excuses is that it requires discipline, not just once, but repeatedly. Every day you will be faced with moments where it's easier to make an excuse than to take action. Moments when you're tired, distracted, unmotivated, or overwhelmed. In those moments, your habits take over. If you're used to making excuses, you will default to them. But if you've trained yourself to push through, you will act despite how you feel. That's why consistency matters so much. The more you choose action over excuses, the stronger that pattern becomes. It starts to feel natural. You stop debating with yourself as much. You stop negotiating with your responsibilities. You simply do what needs to be done. And over time, that consistency compounds. Small actions turn into big results. Effort turns into progress. Discipline turns into success. Excuses also affect yourself. Every time you make an excuse, you send a message to yourself that you are someone who avoids responsibility. Someone who backs down when things get hard. Someone who prioritizes comfort over growth. The more you reinforce that identity, the harder it becomes to change it. On the other hand, every time you take action despite difficulty, you build a different identity. You start to see yourself as someone who follows through, someone who pushes forward, someone who gets things done. Another important aspect of a no excuses mindset is accountability. When you stop making excuses, you take full responsibility for your results. If something doesn't work out, you don't blame external factors. You look at your own actions and ask what you could have done differently. That level of accountability is uncomfortable, but it's also empowering. Because if your actions influence your results, then changing your actions can change your outcomes. It's also important to recognize that excuses don't just affect you. They affect the people around you. When you consistently make excuses, you lower expectations. You make it acceptable to do less, to try less, to be less. But when you hold yourself to a higher standard, when you refuse to make excuses, you raise the bar. You inspire others to do the same, not through words, but through example. One of the biggest myths people believe is that successful people don't face the same challenges. They assume that those who achieve more have fewer obstacles, more support, or better circumstances. But the reality is, successful people face challenges just like everyone else. The difference is how they respond. They don't use challenges as excuses to stop. They use them as reasons to adapt, to grow, and to push harder. There will be days when you fail, days when you don't meet your expectation, days when you fall short. A no excuses mindset doesn't mean perfection. It means ownership. It means acknowledging the failure without justifying it, learning from it, and getting back to work. It means not letting one mistake turn into a pattern of avoidance. Excuses often come from fear. Fear of failed judgment, fear of discomfort, fear of the unknown. Instead of confronting those fears, excuses allow you to avoid them. But avoidance doesn't eliminate fear. It strengthens it. The more you avoid something, the more intimidating it becomes. On the other hand, when you face your fears, when you take action despite them, they begin to lose their power. Another form of excuse is comparison. You look at others and tell yourself you're not as talented, not as experienced, not as fortunate. You use those comparisons as reasons not to try. But comparison is misleading because you're only seeing part of someone else's journey. You don't see their struggles, their failures, their effort. And even if they are ahead of you, that doesn't change what you are capable of doing. Your progress is not determined by where others are. It's determined by what you do. No excuses also means managing your time and energy more effectively. It means recognizing when you're wasting time on things that don't matter and redirecting that time toward things that do. It means prioritizing your goals over distractions, over temporary pleasures, over habits that don't serve you. Because at the end of the day, time is one of the few things you can't get back. It's important to understand that eliminating excuses is not about being harsh on yourself. It's about being honest with yourself. It's about recognizing when you're holding yourself back and choosing to do better. It's about setting a higher standard and committing to it, even when it's difficult. There will always be moments when you're tempted to fall back into old patterns. Moments when excuses seem easier, more comfortable, more appealing. In those moments, you have to remind yourself why you started. You have to remind yourself of what you want, what you're capable of, and what's at stake if you don't follow through. Because every excuse has a cost. It might not be obvious in the moment, but over time, it adds up. It costs you progress, opportunities, confidence, and growth. It keeps you from reaching your potential. And the longer you rely on excuses, the higher that cost becomes. On the other hand, every time you choose action over excuses, you gain something. You gain something. You gain experience, confidence, momentum, and strength. You move closer to your goals. You become more disciplined, more focused, more resilient. And those gains compound over time, just like the cost of excuses. At its core, a no excuses mindset is about commitment. It's about deciding that your goals are important enough to pursue regardless of how you feel, regardless of the obstacles you face, regardless of the circumstances you're in. It's about showing up doing the work and refusing to let anything stand in your way. Because in the end, the difference between where you are and where you want to be is not just about ability or opportunity. It's about action. And action begins the moment you stop making excuses. Motivation is powerful, but it is also unreliable. It comes in waves, often sparked by emotion, inspiration, or a sudden surge of energy. You might feel unstoppable after watching a powerful video, hearing a speech, or imagining the future you want. In those moments, everything feels possible. You make plans, set goals, and promise yourself that this time will be different. But then something happens. The feeling fades. The excitement cools down. And what you're left with is the reality of the work that needs to be done. That's where most people fall off. Not because they lack potential, but because they rely too heavily on motivation. They expect themselves to always feel ready, always feel energized, always feel driven. And when that feeling disappears, they interpret it as a sign to stop. They tell themselves they'll continue when they feel motivated again. But that approach creates inconsistency. It turns progress into something dependent on emotion. And emotions are not stable enough to build anything lasting. Discipline is different. Discipline doesn't depend on how you feel. It operates regardless of your mood, your energy level, or your circumstances. It's a decision, not a feeling. It's the ability to follow through on what you said you would do, even when it's inconvenient, uncomfortable, or difficult. And that consistency is what creates real results over time. The problem with relying on motivation is that it tricks you into believing that action requires emotion. It makes you think you need to feel ready before you start. Oh, feel excited before you continue. But if you wait for those feelings, you'll spend more time waiting than working. Discipline flips that idea. Says you act first and the feelings follow. You don't wait to feel motivated to begin. You begin, and through action, momentum builds. There are going to be days when you don't feel like doing anything. Days when your body is tired, your mind is distracted, and your focus is nowhere to be found. On those days, motivation will be absent. It won't show up to carry you through, but discipline will. If you built it, if you've trained it, it will step in and take control. It will remind you of your commitments, your goals, and your responsibilities. It will push you to take action even when every part of you wants to do the opposite. Building discipline is not something that happens overnight. It's developed through repetition, through making the right choices consistently, even in small ways. It starts with simple commitments. Waking up when you said you would. Completing tasks you plan to finish. Showing up when you'd rather stay comfortable. Each time you follow through, you strengthen that discipline. Each time you don't, you weaken it. One of the biggest challenges people face is the internal negotiation that happens when things get hard. You start to bargain with yourself. You tell yourself you'll do it later, or you'll do less than you planned, or you'll skip just this once. Those small compromises seem harmless, but they add up. They create a pattern of inconsistency. And once that pattern is established, it becomes your default. Discipline eliminates that negotiation. It removes the debate. When something needs to be done, you do it. Not because you feel like it, but because you decided it matters. That clarity reduces mental fatigue. Instead of constantly deciding whether or not to act, you've already made the decision in advance. Your job is simply to execute. Another important aspect of discipline is structure. Motivation is spontaneous, but discipline is built on systems. It requires routines, habits, and clear expectation. When you have a structured approach, you don't rely on guesswork. You know what needs to be done and when. That structure creates stability, and that stability makes it easier to stay consistent. Habits play a critical role in this process. When action becomes a habit, it requires less effort and less decision-making. It becomes automatic. But habits are formed through repetition, and repetition requires discipline. In the beginning, it will feel forced. You will have to push yourself, but over time, it becomes easier. What once required effort becomes natural. It's also important to understand that discipline is not about being perfect. You will have days where you fall short, days where you don't perform at your best, days where you make mistakes. Discipline is not about avoiding those moments. It's about how you respond to them. It's about getting back on track quickly without letting one bad day turn into a pattern. One of the biggest benefits of discipline is that it builds trust in yourself. When you consistently follow through on your commitments, you start to believe in your own reliability. You know that when you say you're going to do something, you will do it. That self-trust is powerful because it eliminates doubt. It gives you confidence, not based on external validation, but based on your own actions. Motivation, on the other hand, can sometimes create false confidence. It makes you feel capable in the moment. But if it's not backed by consistent action, that confidence fades quickly. Discipline creates a deeper, more stable form of confidence because it's rooted in evidence. You've proven to yourself repeatedly that you can do the work. Another key difference is sustainability. Motivation can help you start, but it rarely helps you finish. It's great for initiating action, but it doesn't last long enough to carry you through long-term goals. Discipline is what sustains progress. It's what keeps you moving when the initial excitement is gone. It's what allows you to continue even when the results are not immediate. There will be times when progress feels slow, when you're putting in effort but not seeing immediate results. Those are the moments when motivation disappears completely. There's no excitement, no visible reward, no external recognition. It's just you and the work. Discipline is what keeps you going in those moments. It reminds you that results take time, that consistency matters, and that every small action is contributing to something bigger. Discipline also requires sacrifice. It means choosing long-term goals over short-term comfort. It means saying no to distractions, to temptation, to things that don't align with your priorities. Those choices are not always easy. In fact, they're often uncomfortable, but that discomfort is part of the process. It's a sign that you're prioritizing growth over convenience. Another important element of discipline is focus. In a world full of distractions, staying focused is a challenge. There are constant interruptions, constant opportunities to lose track of what matters. Discipline helps you stay aligned with your goals. It helps you filter out what's unnecessary and concentrate on what's important. It's also worth noting that discipline creates freedom. At first, it might feel restrictive. It might feel like you're limiting yourself by following routines and sticking to commitments. But over time, it actually gives you more control. It allows you to manage your time effectively, to make progress consistently, and to achieve results that would not be possible without that structure. When you rely on motivation, you are at the mercy of your emotion. Your progress depends on how you feel on any given day. That lack of control leads to inconsistency. When you rely on discipline, you take control. You decide what gets done regardless of how you feel. That control is what leads to stability and growth. There's also a level of maturity involved in choosing discipline over motivation. It requires you to think long-term, to prioritize what matters most, and to accept that not everything will feel good in the moment. It requires you to move beyond instant gratification and focus on delayed rewards. Over time, discipline becomes part of your identity. It's no longer something you force yourself to do. It's something you naturally embody. You become the kind of person who shows up, who follows through, who stays consistent. And that identity shapes your actions, your decisions, and ultimately your results. It's important to recognize that you don't have to eliminate motivation entirely. It can still play a role. It can inspire you, energize you, and help you get started. But it should not be your foundation. It should be a supplement, not a requirement. Discipline should be the core. There will always be moments when you wish things were easier, when you wish you felt more motivated, when you wish the process was more enjoyable. Those feelings are normal, but they don't determine your actions. Discipline does. Every time you choose to act despite how you feel, you strengthen that discipline. You make it easier to do it again the next time, and over time, those choices compound. They create momentum, progress, and results. Because in the end, success is not built on the days when you feel great. It's built on the days when you don't. It's built on the days when it's hard, when it's boring, when it's repetitive, when it's uncomfortable. Those are the days that matter the most. And those are the days when discipline makes all the difference. Blame is one of the easiest habits to fall into because it provides instant relief. The moment something goes wrong, the mind naturally looks for a reason, and often that reason is external. It feels comfortable to say that someone else caused the problem, that circumstances were unfair, or that things didn't go your way because of factors outside your control. In that moment, blame acts like a shield. It protects your ego from discomfort. It prevents you from feeling inadequate or responsible. But while it may feel good temporarily, it comes at a cost that is far greater than most people realize. When you blame others, you give away your power. You shift control from yourself to external force. If someone else is responsible for your situation, then they also hold the key to changing it. That means you are no longer in charge of your progress. You are waiting for people to change, waiting for circumstances to improve, waiting for something outside of you to align in your favor. And while you wait, nothing moves. The problem with blame is that it creates stagnation. It keeps you focused on what went wrong instead of what you can do next. It traps you in a cycle of frustration and inaction. Instead of asking, how can I improve this? You ask, why did this happen to me? That shift in focus may seem small, but it has a huge impact on your mindset and your behavior. It's important to understand that not everything that happens to you is your fault. Life is unpredictable. People make decisions that affect you. Circumstances arise that you didn't choose. Challenges appear without warning, but even if you are not responsible for the cause, you are still responsible for the response. And that's where your power lies. Blame distracts you from that power. It keeps your attention on things you cannot control. And the more you focus on what you cannot control, the more helpless you feel. On the other hand, when you shift your focus to what you can control, your actions, your attitude, your decisions, you regain a sense of agency. You realize that even if the situation is not ideal, you still have options. One of the reasons people hold on to blame is because it feels justified. When you've been treated unfairly or face real obstacles, it makes sense to feel frustrated. It makes sense to recognize that something was not right. But there's a difference between acknowledging a situation and holding on to it. Acknowledgement is awareness. Blame is attachment. When you hold on to blame, you allow the past to control your present. Letting go of blame does not mean ignoring what happened. It means refusing to let it define your actions moving forward. It means saying, this may not have been my fault, but it is my responsibility to deal with it. That mindset is empowering because it puts you back in control. Blame also creates a victim mentality. When you constantly attribute your problems to external factors, you begin to see yourself as someone who is at the mercy of circumstances. You start to believe that your outcomes are determined by things you cannot influence. That belief limits your potential because it discourages action. If you believe you have no control, why would you try? Breaking out of that mindset requires a shift in perspective. It requires you to see challenges as opportunities to grow rather than as injustices to complain about. It requires you to take ownership of your response, even when it's difficult. And it requires you to be honest with yourself about the role you play in your own life. One of the most powerful questions you can ask yourself is, what could I have done differently? This question is not about assigning blame to yourself. It's about identifying areas for improvement. It's about learning from your experiences. When you ask this question consistently, you begin to see patterns in your behavior. You begin to understand what works and what doesn't. And that awareness allows you to make better decisions in the future. Blame also affects your relationships. When you constantly point fingers, it creates tension and conflict. It prevents open communication and mutual understanding. It makes it difficult to resolve issues because the focus is on assigning fault rather than finding solutions. On the other hand, when you take responsibility for your part, it creates space for growth. It encourages honesty, accountability, and collaboration. Another issue with blame is that it reinforces negative thinking. When you focus on what others did wrong or what went wrong in your environment, you train your mind to look for problems. You become more aware of negativity and less aware of opportunities. This mindset can become a habit, one that influences how you see the world and how you respond to it outside. Shifting away from blame requires intentional effort. It requires you to catch yourself in the moment when you start to point fingers. It requires you to pause and redirect your thoughts. Instead of asking who was responsible, you ask what you can do. Instead of focusing on the problem, you focus on the solution. This shift may feel unnatural at first, but with practice, it becomes easier. Another important aspect of letting go of blame is accepting responsibility without defensiveness. It's easy to take responsibility when things go well. It's much harder when things go wrong. But true growth comes from those moments of discomfort. When you can admit your mistakes, learn from them, and move forward without making excuses, you develop a level of maturity that sets you apart. Blame also prevents you from taking risks. When you are focused on avoiding fault, you become hesitant to act. You worry about making mistakes, about being judged, about being seen as responsible for failure. This fear can hold you back from opportunities that could lead to growth. When you let go of blame, you also let go of that fear. You become more willing to take action, to try to learn, and to improve. It's also important to recognize that blame often comes from habit. It's something that has been reinforced over time, either through personal experience or through the influence of others. If you've been an influence of others, if you've been in environments where blame was common, it may feel natural to adopt the same behavior. But just because something is familiar doesn't mean it's beneficial. Breaking that habit requires awareness and conscious effort. Another powerful shift is moving from a mindset of fairness to a mindset of responsibility. Life is not always fair. Waiting for things to be fair can lead to frustration and inaction. Responsibility, on the other hand, focuses on what you can do regardless of the situation. It allows you to move forward even when conditions are not ideal. Letting go of blame also builds resilience. When you stop relying on external factors as explanation, you become more adaptable. You learn to navigate challenges more effectively. You become stronger because you are no longer dependent on things being perfect. You develop the ability to handle setbacks without losing momentum. There will be times when you feel the urge to blame, times when it feels justified, when it feels like the easiest response. In those moments, it's important to remind yourself of the call. Blame may feel good in the moment, but it does not move you forward. It does not solve problems. It does not create progress. It only keeps you where you are. Choosing not to blame is not about being passive. It's about being proactive. It's about taking control of your situation and doing what you can to improve it. It's about focusing your energy on actions that lead to growth rather than on thoughts that lead to stagnation. Over time, this shift in mindset changes how you approach life. You become more solution-oriented. You become more accountable. You become more focused on what you can do rather than on what others have done. And that focus leads to progress. It's also worth noting that letting go of blame does not mean tolerating negative behavior from others. It does not mean ignoring boundaries or accepting unfair treatment. It means recognizing what is within your control and acting accordingly. You can still set boundaries, make decisions, and take action without falling into the trap of blame. Ultimately, the goal is to reclaim your power, to take responsibility for your actions, your decision, and your future, to stop giving that power away through blame. Because when you hold on to blame, you limit yourself. But when you let it go, you open the door to growth, to progress, and to change. Every situation presents a choice. You can focus on what went wrong and who is responsible, or you can focus on what you can do next. That choice determines your direction. It determines whether you stay stuck or move forward. And over time, those choices add up. They shape your mindset, your habits, and your results. When you consistently choose responsibility over blame, you create a path that leads to growth, to strength, and to success. Blame is one of the easiest habits to fall in, because it provides instant relief. The moment something goes wrong, the mind naturally looks for a reason, and often that reason is external. It feels comfortable to say that someone else caused the problem, that circumstances were unfair, or that things didn't go your way because of factors outside your control. In that moment, blame acts like a shield. It protects your ego from discomfort. It prevents you from feeling inadequate or responsible. But while it may feel good temporarily, it comes at a cost that is far greater than most people realize. When you blame others, you give away your power. You shift control from yourself to external force. If someone else is responsible for your situation, then they also hold the key to changing it. That means you are no longer in charge of your progress. You are waiting for people to change, waiting for circumstances to improve, waiting for something outside of you to align in your favor. And while you wait, nothing moves. The problem with blame is that it creates stagnation. It keeps you focused on what went wrong instead of what you can do next. It traps you in a cycle of frustration and inaction. Instead of asking, how can I improve this? You ask, why did this happen to me? That shift in focus may seem small, but it has a huge impact on your mindset and your behavior. It's important to understand that not everything that happens to you is your fault. Life is unpredictable. People make decisions that affect you. Circumstances arise that you didn't choose. Challenges appear without warning. But even if you are not responsible for the cause, you are still responsible for the response. And that is where power lies. Blame distracts you from that power. It keeps your attention on things you cannot control. And the more you focus on what you cannot control, the more helpless you feel. On the other hand, when you shift your focus to what you can control, your actions, your attitude, your decisions, you regain a sense of agency. You realize that even if the situation is not ideal, you still have options. One of the reasons people hold on to blame is because it feels justified. When you've been treated unfairly or faced real obstacles, it makes sense to feel frustrated. It makes sense to recognize that something was not right. But there is a difference between acknowledging a situation and holding on to it. Acknowledgement is awareness. Blame is attachment. Blame is attachment. When you hold on to blame, you allow the past to control your present. Letting go of blame does not mean ignoring what happened. It means refusing to let it define your actions moving forward. It means saying, well, this may not have been my fault, but it is my responsibility to deal with it. That mindset is empowering because it puts you back in control. Blame also creates a victim mentality. When you constantly attribute your problems to external factors, you begin to see yourself as someone who is at the mercy of circumstances. You start to believe that your outcomes are determined by things you cannot influence. That belief limits your potential because it discourages action. If you believe you have no control, why would you try? Breaking out of that mindset requires a shift in perspective. It requires you to see challenges as opportunities to grow rather than as injustices to complain about. It requires you to take ownership of your response, even when it's difficult. And it requires you to be honest with yourself about the role you play in your own life. One of the most powerful questions you can ask yourself is, what could I have done differently? This question is not about assigning blame to yourself. It's about identifying areas for improvement. It's about learning from your experiences. When you ask this question consistently, you begin to see patterns in your behavior. You begin to understand what works and what doesn't. And that awareness allows you to make better decisions in the future. Blame also affects your relationship. When you constantly point finger, it creates tension and conflict. It prevents open communication and mutual understanding. It makes it difficult to resolve issues because the focus is on assigning fault rather than finding solutions. On the other hand, when you take responsibility for your part, it creates space for growth. It encourages honesty, accountability, and collaboration. Another issue with blame is that it reinforces negative thinking. When you focus on what others did wrong or what went wrong in your environment, you train your mind to look for problems. You become more aware of negativity and less aware of opportunities. This mindset can become a habit, one that influences how you see the world and how you respond to it. Shifting away from blame requires intentional effort. It requires you to catch yourself in the moment when you start to point fingers. It requires you to pause and redirect your thoughts. Instead of asking who is responsible, you ask what you can do. Instead of focusing on the problem, you focus on the solution. This shift may feel unnatural at first, but with practice, it becomes easier. Another important aspect of letting go of blame is accepting responsibility without defensiveness. It's easy to take responsibility when things go well. It's much harder when things go wrong. But true growth comes from those moments of discomfort. When you can admit your mistakes, learn from them, and move forward without making excuses, you develop a level of maturity that sets you apart. Blame also prevents you from taking risks. When you are focused on avoiding fault, you become hesitant to act. You worry about making mistakes, about being judged, about being seen as responsible for failure. This fear can hold you back from opportunity that could lead to growth. When you let go of blame, you also let go of that fear. You become more willing to take action, to try, to learn, and to improve. It's also important to recognize that blame often comes from habit. It's something that has been reinforced over time, either through personal experiences or through the influence of others. If you've been in environments where blame was common, it may feel natural to adopt the same behavior. But just because something is familiar doesn't mean it's beneficial. Breaking that habit requires awareness and conscious effort. Another powerful shift is moving from a mindset of fairness to a mindset of responsibility. Life is not always fair. Waiting for things to be fair can lead to frustration and inaction. Responsibility, on the other hand, focuses on what you can do regardless of the situation. It allows you to move forward even when conditions are not ideal. Letting go of blame also builds resilience. When you stop relying on external factors as explanations, you become more adaptable. You learn to navigate challenges more effectively. You become stronger because you are no longer dependent on things being perfect. You develop the ability to handle setbacks without losing momentum. There will be times when you feel the urge to blame, times when it feels justified, when it feels like the easiest response. In those moments, it's important to remind yourself of the cost. Blame may feel good in the moment, but it does not move you forward. It does not solve problems. It does not create progress. It only keeps you where you are. Choosing not to blame is not about being passive. It's about being proactive. It's about taking control of your situation and doing what you can to improve it. It's about focusing your energy on actions that lead to growth rather than on thoughts that lead to stagnation. Over time, this shift in mindset changes how you approach life. You become more solution-oriented. You become more accountable. You become more focused on what you can do rather than on what others have done. And that focus leads to progress. It's also worth noting that letting go of blame does not mean tolerating negative behavior from others. It does not mean ignoring boundaries or accepting unfair treatment. It means recognizing what is within your control and acting according. You can still set boundaries, make decisions, and take action without falling into the trap of blame. Ultimately, the goal is to reclaim your power, to take responsibility for your actions, your decisions, and your future, to stop giving that power away through blame. Because when you hold on to blame, you limit yourself. But when you let it go, you open the door to growth, to progress, and to change. Every situation presents a choice. You can focus on what went wrong and who is responsible, or you can focus on what you can do next. That choice determines your direction. It determines whether you stay stuck or move forward. Over time, those choices add up. They shape your mindset, your habits, and your results. When you consistently choose responsibility over blame, you create a path that leads to growth, to strength, and to success. There comes a point in every person's life where they are faced with a simple but powerful truth. No one is coming to save them. It's not a harsh statement meant to discourage you. It's a reality meant to awaken you. Because the moment you truly understand that you are the solution, everything begins to change. Your mindset shifts, your actions change, and your dependence on others begins to fade. Many people grow up believing, consciously or unconsciously, that someone will eventually step in and fix things. That opportunity will arrive at the perfect time, that someone will recognize their potential, that help will come when things get difficult. No. And while support from others can be valuable, relying on it as your primary strategy is risky, because support is never guaranteed. Timing is unpredictable, and waiting can quietly turn into a habit that delays your progress indefinitely. Being the solution means you stop waiting. You stop hoping that circumstances will align in your favor. You stop expecting someone else to create the path for you. Instead, you take it upon yourself to figure things out. You take ownership of your situation and begin to actively search for ways to improve it. This shift is not easy. It requires you to let go of the comfort that comes with dependency. It requires you to face uncertainty, to make decisions without always knowing the outcome, and to take action without guarantees. But it also gives you something powerful in return: control. When you become the solution, you stop seeing problems as dead ends. You start seeing them as challenges to solve. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? You ask, what can I do about this? That change in perspective opens up possibilities. It encourages creativity. It pushes you to think, to adapt, and to grow. One of the biggest barriers to becoming a solution is the fear of responsibility. Responsibility can feel heavy. It means that the outcome depends on you. It means you can't pass the blame or shift the burden. But within that responsibility lies freedom. Because if the outcome depends on you, then so does the ability to change it. Another barrier is self-doubt. Many people hesitate to take control because they don't believe they have what it takes. They question their abilities, their knowledge, their strength. They assume that someone else is more qualified, more capable, more prepared. But the truth is, capability is built through action. You don't start with all the answers. You develop them by trying, by learning, by adjusting. Being the solution doesn't mean you have to do everything alone. It doesn't mean you reject help or isolate yourself. It means you take initiative. It means you seek out resources, learn new skills, and ask for guidance when necessary. But the key difference is that you are not waiting for help to come to you. You are actively pursuing it. You are driving the process. This mindset also requires resilience. There will be obstacles. There will be moments when things don't work out as planned. When your efforts don't produce immediate results, when you feel frustrated or overwhelmed. In those moments, it's easy to fall back into the mindset of waiting or blame. But being the solution means you keep going. You adjust your approach. You try again. Another important aspect is problem solving. Instead of focusing on what's wrong, you focus on what can be done. You break problems down into smaller parts. You look for practical steps you can take. You experiment with different approaches. This process not only helps you move forward, but it also builds confidence. Each problem you solve reinforces the belief that you are capable. Being the solution also changes how you view failure. Failure is no longer something to avoid at all costs. It becomes part of the process, a source of feedback, a way to learn what works and what doesn't. When you take responsibility for finding solutions, you accept that not every attempt will succeed, but each attempt brings you closer to understanding. Another shift that happens is in your level of initiative. You stop waiting to be told what to do. You don't rely on external direction to take action. You identify what needs to be done and you do it. This proactive approach sets you apart. It creates opportunities that would not exist if you were simply waiting. It also affects your mindset toward challenges. Instead of seeing them as burdens, you begin to see them as opportunity to prove to yourself what you are capable of. Each challenge becomes a chance to grow, to improve, and to push your limit. This perspective transforms difficulty into something valuable rather than something to avoid. Time also becomes more important. When you realize that no one is coming to change your situation, you become more aware of how you spend your time. You stop wasting it on things that don't contribute to your growth. You become more intentional with your actions. You prioritize what matters. Another key element is accountability. When you are the solution, you hold yourself accountable for your progress. You don't wait for someone else to check on you, to remind you, or to push you. You develop internal standards. You create your own expectations and commit to meeting them. This mindset also builds independence, not in the sense that you don't need others, but in the sense that you are not dependent on their progress. You are capable of moving forward regardless of external conditions. That independence creates stability. It ensures that your growth does not stop just because something or someone is missing. There will be moments when you feel overwhelmed, when the weight of responsibility feels heavy, when you wish someone else would take over. In those moments, it's important to remember why this mindset matters. Because the alternative is waiting, and waiting rarely leads to progress. Another important aspect is adaptability. When you are the solution, you learn to adjust. You recognize that not every plan will work perfectly. You stay flexible. You are willing to change your approach based on what you learn. This adaptability is crucial because it allows you to navigate uncertainty effectively. It also changes your relationship with effort. You begin to see effort as something necessary, not optional. You understand that results require work, that progress requires consistency, and that there are no shortcuts. This understanding helps you stay committed even when the process is difficult. Being the solution also means taking initiative in learning. You don't wait for someone to teach you everything. You seek knowledge. You read, you observe, you ask questions, you practice, you take responsibility for your own development. This continuous learning keeps you moving forward. Another benefit is confidence, not the kind that comes from external validation, but the kind that comes from experience. When you consistently take action, solve problems, and move forward, you build confidence in your ability to handle whatever comes your way. That confidence makes it easier to face new challenges. It's also important to recognize that this mindset is a process. You don't suddenly become the solution in every area of your life overnight. It develops over time through repeated choices to take responsibility, to act, to learn, and to grow. Each time you choose to step up instead of waiting, you strengthen that mindset. There will always be uncertainty. There will always be challenges. There will always be moments where things are not clear. But being the solution means you move forward anyway. You figure it out as you go. You trust that you can handle what comes next. Ultimately, this mindset is about empowerment. It's about realizing that you have more control than you think, that your actions matter, that your decisions shape your future, and that you are not limited by the absence of help or perfect condition. Every day presents an opportunity to either wait or act, to either depend on others or take responsibility, to either stay where you are or move forward. And those choices define your path. When you fully embrace the idea that you are the solution, you stop looking outward for answers and start looking inward. You stop waiting for change and start creating it. You stop hoping for better and start building better. And over time, that shift transforms everything. Not because the world changes, but because you do. Pain is something most people try to avoid. It's uncomfortable, inconvenient, and often misunderstood. The natural instinct is to escape it, to minimize it, or to distract yourself from it. But pain, when understood correctly, is not something that exists to destroy you. It exists to develop you, then it's to develop you. It is one of the most powerful forces for growth, and yet it is often the one people run from the fastest. Every form of growth requires some level of discomfort. Whether it's physical, mental, or emotional, the process of becoming better demands that you move beyond what is familiar and easy. That movement creates tension. It creates resistance, and that resistance is often felt as pain. The mistake many people make is interpreting that pain as a signal to stop, when in reality, it is often a signal that you are progressing. Think about any area of improvement. Building strength requires physical strain. Learning something new requires mental effort and frustration. Developing emotional resilience requires facing situations that challenge your comfort zone. None of these processes are painless. In fact, the discomfort is part of what makes the growth possible. Without it, there would be no change. One of the reasons pain is so difficult to embrace is because it is associated with negativity. From an early age, people are taught to avoid it, to seek comfort, to choose the easier path. And while comfort has its place, it does not lead to transformation. Growth happens outside of comfort. It happens when you are willing to face difficulty, to endure challenges, and to push through resistance. There are different types of pain, and understanding the difference is important. There is pain that signals harm, something that needs to be avoided or addressed immediately. But there's also pain that comes from effort, from pushing your limits, from striving for something better. This second type of pain is not harmful, it is constructive. It is the kind of pain that leads to improvement. Avoiding this kind of pain comes at a cost. When you choose comfort over growth, you may feel better in the moment, but you remain the same. You miss opportunities to develop new skills, to build resilience, and to expand your capabilities. Over time, that avoidance can lead to regret. The realization that you could have done more, that you could have become more, but you chose not to. Pain also reveals your limits. It shows you where you are and where you need to improve. It highlights weaknesses, gaps in knowledge, and areas that require attention. This feedback is valuable, even if it is uncomfortable. Without it, you would have no clear direction for growth. You will remain unaware of what needs to change. Another important aspect of pain is that it builds resilience. Each time you face discomfort and push through it, you become stronger. Not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. You develop the ability to handle challenges more effectively. You become less sensitive to difficulty and more capable of enduring it. This resilience is what allows you to continue growing even when things get tough. Many people believe that successful individuals do not experience as much pain. In reality, they often experience more. The difference is how they respond to it. Instead of avoiding it, they lean into it. They understand that pain is part of the process. They use it as a tool rather than seeing it as an obstacle. One of the most powerful shifts you can make is changing your relationship with pain. Instead of seeing it as something to fear, you begin to see it as something to learn from. You start asking different questions. Instead of, how do I avoid this? You ask, what is this teaching me? That shift turns pain into a source of insight. Pain also requires patience. It is not always immediate in its rewards. You may go through periods of discomfort without seeing clear results. That can be frustrating. It can make you question whether the effort is worth it. But growth often happens beneath the surface before it becomes visible. The pain you endure today may not show results immediately, but it is contributing to something that will become apparent over time. Another challenge is staying committed when the pain intensifies. It's easy to start something when the discomfort is minimal, but as you push further, the difficulty increases. The effort becomes greater. The resistance becomes stronger. This is where many people stop. They reach a point where the pain outweighs their willingness to continue. But those who push past that point often experience the greatest growth. It's also important to recognize that pain is temporary. It may feel intense in the moment, but it does not last forever. The discomfort you experience while growing is part of a process that leads to improvement. Once that improvement is achieved, the level of discomfort changes. What was once difficult becomes manageable. What was once painful becomes normal. Avoiding pain does not eliminate it. It simply delays it. When you avoid challenges, you may feel comfortable in the short term, but you create difficulties in the long term. Lack of growth, missed opportunities, and unfulfilled potential all come with their own form of pain. And often that pain is deeper and more lasting than the discomfort of growth. Another aspect of pain is that it tests your commitment. It forces you to decide how much you truly want something. When things are easy, it's simple to stay motivated. But when things become difficult, when the pain sets in, that's when your true level of commitment is revealed. It's easy to say you want something. It's much harder to endure discomfort to achieve it. Pain also teaches discipline. It requires you to continue even when you don't feel like it. It forces you to rely on your decisions rather than your emotions. In doing so, it strengthens your ability to stay consistent, to follow through, and to remain focused on your goals. There is also a level of self-discovery that comes with pain. When you face challenges, you learn more about yourself. You discover your strengths, your weaknesses, your limits, and your potential. You learn how you respond under pressure. You learn what you are capable of when things are not easy. This self-awareness is valuable because it helps you understand how to grow further. Pain can also build confidence. Not the kind that comes from easy success, but the kind that comes from overcoming difficulty. When you go through something challenging and come out stronger, you develop a belief in your ability to handle future challenges. That confidence is not easily shaken because it is based on experience. It's important to approach pain with the right mindset. Not all pain is beneficial, and it's important to recognize when something is harmful. But when it comes to growth, discomfort is often a necessary part of the process. Learning to differentiate between harmful pain and growth-related discomfort is key. Another important factor is perspective. The way you interpret pain determines how you respond to it. If you see it as a barrier, you will avoid it. If you see it as a stepping stone, you will use it. That perspective influences your actions, your decisions, and your progress. Pain also requires focus. When you are in the middle of a difficult process, it's easy to become overwhelmed. To focus on how hard it is, how uncomfortable it feels, how much effort it requires. But shifting your focus to the outcome, to the reason why you started, can help you push through. It gives you a sense of purpose that makes the discomfort more manageable. Another important aspect is support. While growth is ultimately your responsibility, having people who encourage you, who understand the process, can make a difference. They can provide perspective, motivation, and guidance. But even with support, the decision to push through pain is yours. Pain also creates appreciation. When you work hard for something, when you go through difficulty to achieve it, you value it more. The effort, the struggle, the discomfort, all of it adds meaning to the outcome. It makes the result more satisfying because you know what it took to get there. There will be moments when you question whether it's worth it. When the pain feels overwhelming, when the progress feels slow, when the outcome feels uncertain. In those moments, it's important to remember that growth is not supposed to be easy. If it were, everyone would achieve it. The difficulty is part of what makes it valuable. Over time, your tolerance for pain increases. What once felt overwhelming becomes manageable. You become more comfortable with discomfort. You develop the ability to push through challenges that would have stopped you before. This progression is a sign of growth. Ultimately, pain is not something to fear, but something to understand. It's a signal, a teacher, a tool. It shows you where you are and where you can go. It challenges you to become more than you are. Every time you face pain, you have a choice. You can avoid it and stay the same, or you can embrace it and grow. That choice, repeated over time, shapes who you become. There is a defining moment in every journey where the excitement fades and reality sets in. It's the moment when the goal still matters, but the feeling doesn't. When the energy you started with is gone, when the inspiration that pushed you forward has disappeared, and all that's left is the work. This is the moment that separates those who talk about success from those who actually achieve it. Because real progress is not built on the days when you feel unstoppable. It's built on the days when you don't feel like doing anything at all, yet you choose to act anyway. Working when you don't feel like it is one of the most powerful habits you can develop. It goes against your natural instincts. Your mind, your instincts designed to seek comfort, to conserve energy, to avoid unnecessary effort. So when you're tired, distracted, or unmotivated, your brain will give you reasons to stop. It will tell you that you deserve a break, that you can do it later, that missing one day won't matter. And in isolation, those thoughts seem harmless. But repeated over time, they create a pattern of inconsistency that limits your progress. Feelings are temporary. They change constantly based on your environment, your energy, your mood, and even things you can't control. If you rely on those feelings to determine your actions, your progress will always be unstable. Some days you'll do a lot, other days you'll do nothing. The inconsistency prevents momentum. And without momentum, even the best intentions struggle to turn into results. The ability to act despite your feelings is what creates stability. It ensures that your progress does not depend on your mood. It allows you to move forward even when the conditions are not ideal. And that stability is what builds momentum over time. One of the biggest misconceptions is that you need to feel ready before you begin. That you need the right mindset, the right level of energy, the right emotional state. But readiness is often a result of action, not a prerequisite for it. When you start working, even when you don't feel like it, something shifts. Your focus improves, your energy begins to rise, Your mind adapts to the task. The hardest part is not the work itself, but the decision to begin. There's resistance at the start of every task, a mental barrier that makes it feel more difficult than it actually is. This resistance is strongest when you don't feel like working. It creates hesitation. It delays action. But once you push past that initial barrier, the process becomes easier. The task that felt overwhelming begins to feel manageable. Another challenge is the internal negotiation that happens in these moments. You start making deals with yourself. You say you'll do it later, or you'll do less than planned, or you'll skip just this once. These negotiations are subtle, but they are powerful. They create a gap between what you intended to do and what you actually do. And over time, that gap grows. Eliminating that negotiation is key. When you decide that something needs to be done, you remove the option of not doing. You don't debate, you don't delay, you don't justify. You act. This level of commitment reduces mental friction. It simplifies your decision-making process. Instead of constantly choosing whether or not to work, you've already made the choice. Working when you don't feel like it also builds discipline. It strengthens your ability to follow through on your commitments. Each time you push through resistance, you reinforce the habit of action. You train yourself to prioritize your goals over your comfort. And over time, that habit becomes part of your identity. There will be days when a lack of motivation is extreme. Days when everything feels heavy, when focus is difficult, when distractions are everywhere. On those days, the goal is not perfection. The goal is participation. Even a small effort is better than none, because showing up maintains the habit. It keeps the momentum alive. Another important aspect is lowering the barrier to entry. When you don't feel like working, starting a big task can feel overwhelming. Breaking it down into smaller steps makes it easier to begin. Instead of thinking about the entire workload, focus on the first step. Once you complete that step, move to the next. This approach reduces resistance and makes the process more manageable. It's also important to understand not every day will be productive in the same way. Some days you will perform at a high level. Other days your output will be lower. That variation is normal. What matters is that you continue to show up. Consistency and effort is more important than consistency and intensity. Working when you don't feel like it also builds mental toughness. It teaches you how to operate under less than ideal conditions. It prepares you for situations where you cannot rely on motivation. This toughness is what allows you to handle pressure, to meet deadlines, and to push through challenges. Another benefit is the reduction of procrastination. Procrastination often stems from waiting for the right feeling to start. When you remove that requirement, you remove the main cause of delay. You begin to act more quickly. You waste less time overthinking. You get more done. There is also a sense of satisfaction that comes from completing tasks despite resistance. It's a deeper form of satisfaction than what comes from working when you feel good, because you know it requires effort. You know you had to push yourself. That sense of accomplishment builds confidence and reinforces the habit. Working when you don't feel like it also changes your relationship with effort. You begin to see effort as something normal, not something to avoid. You accept that not everything will feel enjoyable, and that's okay. This acceptance makes it easier to stay consistent. Another important factor is environment. Your surroundings can influence how you feel and how you act. Creating an environment that supports your work can reduce resistance. This might mean minimizing distractions, organizing your space, or setting specific times for focused work. While environment doesn't replace discipline, it can make it easier to act. It's also helpful to have clear goals. When you know what you're working toward, it's easier to push through moments of low motivation. Your goals provide direction. They remind you why the effort matters. Without that clarity, it's easier to give in to temporary feelings. There will be times when rest is necessary. Working when you don't feel like it does not mean ignoring exhaustion or burnout. It means distinguishing between genuine need for rest and temporary lack of motivation. Learning that difference is important, because pushing through when you're simply unmotivated leads to growth, while ignoring true exhaustion can be harmful. Another aspect is accountability. When you hold yourself accountable, you create a standard. You set expectations for your behavior. And when you meet those expectations consistently, you build trust in yourself. That trust makes it easier to continue acting even when it's difficult. Over time, working when you don't feel like it becomes easier, not because the resistance disappears completely, but because you become better at handling it. You develop strategies, habits, and mindsets that allow you to move forward regardless of how you feel. It also creates a competitive advantage. While others wait for motivation, you are taking action. While others delay, you are progressing. This difference compounds over time. It leads to greater results, more opportunities, and increased confidence. Another important point is, action often creates motivation. When you start working, you generate momentum. That momentum can lead to increased focus and energy. In many cases, the motivation you were waiting for comes after you begin, not before. Working when you don't feel like it is not about forcing yourself into misery. It's about building a level of control over your actions. It's about ensuring that your progress is not dependent on your emotions. It's about creating a system where your goals take priority over temporary feelings. There will always be moments of resistance, moments when stopping feels easier than continuing. In those moments, the decision you make matters, because that decision is not just about that moment. It's about the pattern you are creating. Each time you choose to act, you strengthen the habit. Each time you choose comfort, you weaken it. Over time, those choices define your behavior. They determine whether you move forward or stay where you are. And in the long run, it is not the days when you felt great that make the biggest difference. It is the days when you did it, but you worked anyway. Those are the days that build discipline, that create consistency, and that drive real progress. Because success is not about feeling ready. It's about being willing to act regardless of how you feel. Life is filled with variables that you cannot control. Circumstances change. People behave unpredictably. Opportunities come and go, and challenges arise without warning. If you spend your energy trying to control all of these external factors, you will quickly become frustrated and exhausted. Because no matter how hard you try, there will always be elements beyond your reach. The key to progress is not controlling everything, but focusing on what you can control. What you can control is often more powerful than you realize. You can control your actions, your effort, your attitude, your responses, your habits, and your decisions. These may seem like small things compared to the larger circumstances around you, but they are the foundation of your progress. While you may not be able to dictate the situation, you can always influence the outcome through how you respond to it. One of the biggest mistakes people make is focusing too much on outcomes and not enough on actions. Outcomes are influenced by many factors, some of which are outside your control. When you fixate on results, especially ones you cannot fully control, you create unnecessary stress and anxiety. You begin to measure your progress based on something that is not entirely in your hand. Focusing on action shifts that dynamic. It puts your attention on what you can do right now. It creates a sense of control and clarity. Instead of worrying about whether something will happen, you focus on what you can do to make it more likely to happen. This approach reduces stress and increases productivity because your energy is directed towards something tangible. Another important aspect is understanding the difference between influence and control. You may not be able to control a situation, but you can often influence it. Your actions, your communication, and your preparation can all have an impact. Recognizing this distinction allows you to act without expecting complete control. It encourages effort without attachment to specific outcomes. When you focus on what you can control, you also become more resilient. Challenges become easier to handle because you are not overwhelmed by everything that is happening. You break things down. You identify what is within your control and take action in those areas. This approach prevents you from feeling helpless because you always have something you can do. It also changes your mindset. Instead of feeling like a victim of circumstances, you begin to see yourself as an active participant in your life. You recognize that while you cannot control everything, you are not powerless. You have the ability to make choices, to take action, and to move forward. Another benefit is improved decision-making. When you focus on what you can control, you make decisions based on logic and intention rather than emotion. You are less likely to be influenced by fear, frustration, or uncertainty. Instead, you focus on what is practical and effective. This leads to better outcomes over time. One of the challenges in applying this mindset is letting go of the need for certainty. People naturally want to know what will happen, to have guarantees, to feel secure. But certainty is not always possible. There will always be unknowns. When you focus on what you can control, you learn to operate effectively despite that uncertainty. You develop confidence in your ability to handle whatever comes next. It's also important to recognize how much energy is wasted on things outside of your control. Worrying about what others think, what others do, or what might happen in the future can consume a significant amount of mental energy. That energy could be used more productively if it were directed toward actions that create progress. Letting go of what you cannot control is not about ignoring it. It's about accepting it. It's about recognizing that certain things are beyond your influence and choosing not to let them dictate your actions. This acceptance creates mental clarity. It frees up your focus so you can concentrate on what truly matters. Another important aspect is responsibility. When you focus on what you can control, you take ownership of your actions. You stop making excuses based on external factors. You recognize that while circumstances may affect you, they do not define your actions. This sense of responsibility is empowering because it puts you in charge of your behavior. It also encourages consistency. When your focus is on actions, you can take steps forward regardless of the situation. You don't have to wait for the perfect conditions. You don't have to rely on external factors aligning. You can always do something, even if it's small, and those small actions repeated over time lead to progress. Another benefit is reduced anxiety. Much of anxiety comes from worrying about things that are uncertain or uncontrollable. By shifting your focus to what you can control, you reduce that uncertainty. You create a sense of stability because your actions are within your control, even if the outcomes are not. This mindset also improves your ability to handle setbacks. When something goes wrong, instead of dwelling on what you cannot change, you focus on what you can do next. You ask yourself what actions you can take to improve the situation. This proactive approach helps you recover more quickly and maintain momentum. It's also important to understand controlling your actions requires discipline. It's not always easy to choose the right response, especially in difficult situations. Emotions can be strong. Reactions can be impulsive. But with practice, you can develop the ability to pause, to think, and to choose your response intentionally. Another key element is self-awareness. You need to be aware of your thoughts, your reactions, and your habits. This awareness allows you to identify when you are focusing on things outside your control and redirect your attention. It helps you stay aligned with your goals. Focusing on what you can control also improves your relationships. Instead of trying to control others, you focus on your own behavior. You communicate more effectively. You respond more thoughtfully. This creates healthier interactions and reduces conflict. It also builds confidence. When you consistently take action in areas you can control, you see progress. You see results. This reinforces your belief in your ability to influence your life. That confidence makes it easier to continue taking action. Another important aspect is adaptability. When you accept that you cannot control everything, you become more flexible. You are more willing to adjust your plans based on new information or changing circumstances. This adaptability allows you to navigate challenges more effectively. There will be times when it feels like everything is out of your control, when situations are overwhelming, when outcomes are uncertain, when progress feels slow. In those moments, it's even more important to focus on what you can control, even if it's just one small action. Taking that step can make a difference. This mindset also helps you stay present. Instead of worrying about the future or dwelling on the past, you focus on what you can do right now. This presence improves your effectiveness because your attention is fully on the task at hand. It's also important to recognize that control is not about perfection. You will not always make the right decisions. You will not always take the best actions. But the goal is not perfection. It's progress. It's about consistently doing what you can, with what you have, where you are. Another benefit is clarity. When you focus on what you can control, you eliminate distractions. You simplify your approach. You concentrate on the actions that matter most. This clarity improves your efficiency and effectiveness. Over time, this mindset becomes a habit. You automatically direct your attention toward what you can control. You spend less time worrying and more time acting. This shift leads to better results and a greater sense of control over your life. It's also worth noting that focusing on what you can control does not mean ignoring your goals. It means approaching them in a more effective way. Instead of fixating on the end result, you focus on the process. You take the steps that lead to that result, one at a time. There will always be uncertainty. There will always be factors you cannot control. But that does not prevent you from making progress. It does not stop you from taking action. It does not limit your ability to move forward. Every day you have a choice. You can focus on what you cannot control and feel stuck, or you can focus on what you can control and take action. That choice determines your direction. It determines whether you move forward or stay where you are. And over time, those choices add up. They shape your habits, your mindset, and your results. When you consistently focus on what you can control, you create a path that leads to growth, to progress, and to success. Because in the end, it's not about controlling everything. It's about controlling what matters most. And what matters most is what you do next. Success is rarely about luck. It's rarely about waiting for the perfect moment or having everything handed to you on a silver platter. Real success comes from preparation and execution. It comes from showing up consistently, even when the odds are stacked against you, even when circumstances aren't perfect, and even when no one is watching. Preparation and execution are the two pillars that turn potential into achievement, and they require discipline, focus, and relentless commitment. Preparation is often overlooked because it doesn't look glamorous. It doesn't come with instant results, applause, or recognition. But it is the foundation of every great achievement. Preparation is about laying the groundwork before action is taken. It's about learning, practicing, strategizing, and positioning yourself to succeed when the opportunity arises. While many wait for the right moment to appear, those who prepare create their own moments. They put themselves in a position where they can act decisively and effectively. Preparation requires patience. It's not about rushing or forcing results. It's about consistently working behind the scenes to build skills, knowledge, and resilience. It's about understanding the demands of your goal and equipping yourself to meet them. This could mean studying, practicing, researching, planning, or conditioning your mind and body for the challenges ahead. Each act of preparation strengthens your ability to perform when the time comes. Execution, on the other hand, is the act of taking what you have prepared and applying it in real situations. It's about moving beyond planning into action. Many people prepare endlessly but never execute. They get caught in analysis paralysis, waiting for everything to be perfect. Execution requires courage because it exposes you to risk, uncertainty, and potential failure. But without execution, preparation is wasted. Even the most detailed plans remain just ideas unless you act on them. One of the most important truths about preparation and execution is that they are interdependent. Preparation without execution is wasted potential. Execution without preparation is reckless. True mastery comes from balancing both, being ready and willing to act. Those who succeed consistently are the ones who understand that showing up prepared is not enough. They must also act decisively and consistently apply their knowledge and skills. Preparation also builds confidence. When you have done the work ahead of time, you approach challenges with a sense of readiness. You trust your skills, your judgment, and your plan. That confidence reduces hesitation and fear, allowing you to execute more effectively. Conversely, a lack of preparation increases doubt, anxiety, and the likelihood of mistakes, making execution more difficult and less effective. Another key aspect of preparation is attention to detail. Success is often determined by the small things, the habits, the routines, the choices, and the effort that go unnoticed. Preparation allows you to anticipate challenges, plan responses, and reduce the risk of error. It creates a safety net that allows you to act with precision and confidence even under pressure. Execution, however, demands resilience. No plan survives perfectly in the real world. Unexpected challenges, setbacks, and obstacles will arise. Execution is about adapting and moving forward despite those challenges. It requires focus, determination, and the ability to recover quickly when things don't go as planned. Those who execute effectively do not wait for perfect conditions. They make the best of what is available and adjust as needed. One of the biggest obstacles to execution is fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, and fear of the unknown can paralyze even the most prepared individuals. Overcoming this fear requires a mindset that views action as the path to learning and growth. Mistakes are not failures. They are feedback. Each attempt provides insight, builds experience, and brings you closer to success. Another important factor is consistency. It transforms intention into results. It bridges the gap between thinking and doing, between planning and reality. Without execution, preparation remains potential energy. With execution, it becomes kinetic energy, movement toward your goals. Another benefit of combining preparation with execution is increased efficiency. When you are prepared, your actions are more deliberate, less reactive, and more precise. You waste less time on trial and error because you have already built the knowledge, skills, and plan needed to succeed. Efficiency accelerates progress and reduces unnecessary stress. Preparation and execution also create resilience against setbacks. Even if results are not immediate, the work you have done prepares you for recovery. Skills, knowledge, and experience gained during preparation make it easier to adapt. Momentum gained through consistent execution ensures you don't lose ground during difficult times. Over time, the integration of preparation and execution compounds into expertise. The repeated cycle of planning, practicing, acting, and learning deepens your understanding and sharpens your skills. This expertise positions you to achieve goals that would be impossible without the deliberate combination of preparation and action. It's also important to recognize that both preparation and execution require sacrifice. Time, energy, comfort, and convenience are often exchanged for progress. Those who understand this are willing to make these sacrifices because they see the value of long-term results over short-term ease. Every successful individual understands that success is not about waiting for the perfect conditions. It is about creating them through preparation and then acting decisively. Waiting for luck or inspiration without doing the work is a recipe for stagnation. Taking action without preparation is a recipe for failure. The balance of both is what produces lasting achievement. When preparation meets execution, potential becomes reality. Knowledge and skills are transformed into results. Plans and strategies are transformed into progress. Effort is transformed into accomplishment. This is the essence of success. Being ready, taking action, and continuing to do both consistently until your goals are realized. Ultimately, those who excel in life are not necessarily the most talented or the most fortunate. They are the ones who consistently prepare, the ones who consistently execute, and the ones who never rely solely on luck. They understand that preparation without execution is wasted potential, and that execution without preparation is reckless. By mastering both, they control their outcomes and create their own opportunities. Every day presents an opportunity to prepare and act, to invest in your skills, your knowledge, and your mindset, to take deliberate steps toward your goals. And every action, no matter how small, contributes to the cumulative effect of long-term success. Because in the end, it is not about luck. It is about being ready when opportunity arrives and having the courage and discipline to act. Preparation and execution are the keys that unlock that door. Discipline is the bridge between goals and achievement. It is the force that allows dreams to move from the realm of imagination into the reality of action and results. Many people underestimate the power of discipline because it is invisible at first. It does not come with immediate rewards or recognition. It is quiet, repetitive, and often uncomfortable. Yet, it is the single most consistent predictor of success because it governs what you do, how you act, and whether you follow through on the commitments you make to yourself. Discipline is not about perfection. It is not about never failing or never deviating from a plan. Discipline is about commitment and consistency. It is about choosing what you need to do over what you feel like doing. It is about prioritizing long-term results over short-term comfort. Every time you resist the temptation to quit, to procrastinate, or to take the easier path, you are exercising discipline. And over time, these small acts compound into remarkable outcomes. One of the reasons discipline is so powerful is that it creates freedom. This may sound counterintuitive because discipline often requires restriction, limiting impulses, controlling desires, and adhering to a plan. But freedom comes from mastery over yourself. When you are disciplined, you are no longer at the mercy of your moods, impulses, or circumstances. You make deliberate choices instead of reacting to the moment. That self-mastery allows you to pursue your goals without being held back by inconsistent behavior or lack of focus. Discipline also builds resilience. Life is full of setbacks, disappointments, and unexpected challenges. Without discipline, it is easy to give up when things get difficult. But discipline teaches you to push through resistance, to persist despite obstacles, and to continue moving forward even when motivation is low. It is the habit of persistence that enables people to achieve results long after initial enthusiasm has faded. Another aspect of discipline is time management. Every person has the same 24 hours, yet some accomplish more than others. Discipline allows you to structure your time effectively. It helps you focus on high priority tasks, reduce distractions, and allocate energy to the activities that truly matter. Without discipline, time slips away unnoticed, leaving potential untapped and goals unachieved. Discipline is also about delayed gratification. Human nature seeks immediate rewards, pleasure, comfort. Discipline teaches the ability to wait, to work, and to sacrifice now for benefits later. This ability to defer short-term pleasure in pursuit of long-term success separates those who achieve their goals from those who remain stuck in temporary satisfaction. Delayed gratification requires patience, mental strength, and a clear vision of the outcome you desire. Mental fortitude is closely tied to discipline. Life will challenge your resolve repeatedly, testing whether you are committed to your goals. Discipline is the muscle that allows you to withstand these tests. It helps you control your thoughts, manage emotions, and maintain focus on your priority, even in the face of adversity. Over time, this mental toughness becomes a habit, reinforcing the ability to act consistently. Another important dimension of discipline is accountability. Disciplined individuals hold themselves responsible for their actions, decisions, outcomes. They do not blame circumstance, luck, or others for failures. Instead, they analyze what they could have done differently and take corrective action. This accountability fosters growth because it ensures that mistakes become learning opportunities rather than excuses. Discipline also shapes character. Your habits define who you are. Consistent, disciplined actions cultivate integrity, reliability, and self-respect. When you follow through on commitments, even when it's difficult, you build trust with yourself and others. This trust is invaluable because it allows you to act confidently, knowing that you can rely on your own consistency. It's important to recognize that discipline is developed over time. It is not something you are born with. It is a skill cultivated through repeated practice. Every time you make the choice to act despite resistance, you strengthen this skill. Every time you stick to a plan when it is inconvenient, you reinforce the habit. Discipline grows with use, becoming stronger with each challenge you face and overcome. Another critical aspect is focus. Discipline requires directing attention toward what is important and avoiding distractions. In a world filled with constant stimuli, maintaining focus is increasingly challenging. Discipline allows you to cut through noise, concentrate on your goals, and commit your energy where it will have the greatest impact. Focused effort is far more effective than scattered energy, and discipline is the tool that enables it. Discipline also affects relationships. The habits you cultivate influence how you interact with others. A disciplined person is reliable, consistent, and trustworthy. These qualities foster stronger, more meaningful connections. People are drawn to those who demonstrate control over their lives because it signals stability, responsibility, and maturity. Physical and mental health are also deeply influenced by discipline. Success in life is not just about skill or opportunity. It's about being able to perform consistently at a high level. This requires taking care of your body and mind. Discipline allows you to maintain routines that promote health, such as exercise, nutrition, rest, and mental conditioning. Neglecting these areas reduces your capacity to achieve, while consistent care enhances it. Discipline is also critical when motivation wanes. Motivation is temporary. It fluctuates based on mood, environment, and circumstances. Discipline carries you forward when motivation fades. Ensures that you continue to act even when you don't feel like it. This is why disciplined people achieve results long after those relying solely on motivation have stopped. Another aspect of discipline is self-awareness. Understanding your strengths, weaknesses, triggers, and patterns allows you to apply discipline more effectively. Awareness helps you anticipate situations where you are likely to falter and develop strategies to maintain control. This proactive approach increases consistency and reduces the chance of lapses. Discipline also nurtures courage. It takes courage to do what must be done, especially when it is uncomfortable, inconvenient, or challenging. Each act of discipline is an act of courage. The courage to choose what is right over what is easy, to stay committed when others give up, and to endure short-term discomfort, long-term gain. Financial discipline is another area where the power of consistency is evident. Managing resources effectively, saving, investing, and avoiding impulsive spending requires self-control and foresight. Those who exercise discipline in their finances are better prepared for opportunities and resilient against setbacks, creating stability and freedom in the long term. Discipline also drives learning and growth, consistently dedicating time to education, skill development, and self-improvement compounds over time. Knowledge gained through disciplined study, practice, and reflection allows you to perform at a higher level and seize opportunities that others may miss. Another critical element is resilience in the face of failure. Discipline ensures that setbacks do not derail progress. It encourages you to assess what went wrong, make adjustments, and continue forward. Instead of being crushed by failure, disciplined individuals use it as a stepping stone to improve, refine strategies, and approach challenges with renewed determination. Discipline is closely tied to planning and structure. Goals without a plan remain abstract. Effort without structure becomes scattered. Discipline allows you to create routines, schedules, and systems that guide your actions consistently toward your objectives. It transforms chaos into order, increasing efficiency and effectiveness in every area of life. Emotional control is another byproduct of discipline. Life often presents situations that provoke anger, fear, frustration, or doubt. Discipline helps you respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. It allows you to maintain composure, make rational decisions, and act in alignment with your long-term goals, even under pressure. The relationship between discipline and self-respect cannot be overstated. Each time you follow through on what you commit to, you reinforce your belief in your ability to control your life. This internal trust enhances self-esteem, reduces self-doubt, and empowers you to take on bigger challenges with confidence. Discipline is also contagious. The habits you cultivate can inspire and influence those around you. When people observe consistency, commitment, and follow-through, they are more likely to adopt similar behaviors. This ripple effect can create positive environments that support growth, accountability, and achievement. Another dimension is adaptability. Discipline does not mean rigid adherence to a failing plan. It allows for strategic flexibility because disciplined individuals can assess situations objectively and make adjustments while maintaining their commitment to overarching goals. This balance of structure and adaptability is critical for long-term success. Over time, the cumulative effect of discipline is extraordinary. Small, consistent actions build upon one another, producing results that appear almost exponential. The person who chooses discipline daily creates an environment for success that compounds over weeks, months, and years. What may seem insignificant in isolation becomes transformative in the aggregate. Ultimately, discipline is the foundation of personal power. It enables you to act intentionally, maintain focus, endure challenges, and follow through on commitments. It transforms ambition into achievement, effort into results and potential into reality. Without discipline, talent, opportunity, and even motivation are fleeting. With discipline, however, you gain control over your life, your outcomes, and your destiny. Because at the end of the day, success is not about luck, motivation, or convenience. It is about the consistent application of discipline in every decision, every action, and every moment. It is the quiet force that separates those who dream from those who achieve, and it is the key to unlocking the full potential within you. Your environment is one of the most powerful factors that shapes your life, yet it is often overlooked. The people you surround yourself with, the places you spend your time, the media you consume, and the overall energy around you all contribute to who you become and how you perform. Eric Thomas often emphasizes that your environment can either elevate you or hold you back. Understanding the influence of your environment is crucial because it affects your mindset, motivation, and ultimately the results you achieve. Your environment influences your thinking patterns. When you are around people who are ambitious, disciplined, and focused, their energy and mindset become contagious. You start to adopt their habits, perspectives, and standards. On the other hand, if your environment is filled with negativity, excuses, and complacency, it can easily influence your mindset in the opposite direction. Even small interactions, conversations, or exposures to certain energy levels can shape your beliefs and behavior in ways you may not consciously recognize. The first step in harnessing your environment is awareness. Many people fail to realize how much their surroundings affect their behavior and outcomes. They blame external circumstances for their lack of progress without acknowledging how much influence their environment has had on their choices. Awareness means taking a hard look at the people you spend the most time with, the spaces you occupy, and the influences you allow in your life. It means asking yourself whether these elements are moving you closer to your goals or keeping you stagnant. One of the most significant aspects of your environment is the people around you. Humans are social creatures, and we naturally mirror the habits, attitudes, and beliefs of those we spend the most time with. If your friends, colleagues, or family members are constantly complaining, avoiding responsibility, or discouraging ambition, their behaviors can subtly infiltrate your thinking. Conversely, being around people who challenge you, inspire you, and hold you accountable can accelerate your growth and push you to achieve more than you thought possible. Another factor is the physical environment. The spaces in which you live and work can influence your productivity, focus, and creativity. A cluttered, disorganized, or chaotic space can lead to mental fatigue, distraction, and reduced efficiency. On the other hand, a clean, organized, and purposeful environment fosters focus, clarity, and motivation. Your physical surroundings are not just a backdrop. They are a reflection of your mindset and can either support or hinder your ability to perform at your best. Media consumption also plays a critical role. The content you consume, whether it is social media, news, books, podcasts, or videos, shapes your beliefs, attitudes, and expectations. Constant exposure to negativity, fear, or gossip can limit your perspective and reduce your sense of possibility. In contrast, consuming content that educates, inspires, and challenges you can expand your horizons, improve your knowledge, and strengthen your mindset. What you allow into your mind has a direct impact on the environment you create for yourself internally. Energy is another subtle but powerful factor. Some people bring uplifting, motivating energy that inspires action, while others bring negativity, doubt, or complacency that drains enthusiasm. Recognizing and managing the energy you allow into your life is crucial. Being around high energy, motivated individuals can push you to act consistently, while low energy or toxic influences can hold you back without you even realizing it. Your environment also affects your habits. Habits are often formed subconsciously, influenced by cues in your surroundings. For example, if you are trying to develop a habit of fitness but live in an environment where unhealthy food is easily accessible and physical activity is discouraged, it becomes much harder to stay consistent. Conversely, an environment that supports your desired habits makes them easier to implement and maintain. Structuring your surroundings to reinforce positive behaviors is a key strategy for long-term success. Accountability is another critical factor tied to environment. Surrounding yourself with people who challenge you, question your excuses, and hold you responsible creates a system of external reinforcement. This can be incredibly effective in maintaining discipline and commitment. Now, without accountability, it's easy to rationalize inaction or settle for less than your potential. A strong, supportive, and challenging environment provides both motivation and a framework for progress. It's also important to consider the timing and rhythm of your environment. Being in the right place at the right time can create opportunities for growth that might not otherwise exist. For instance, attending networking events, workshops, or mastermind groups places you among individuals who share similar goals and ambition. These environments expose you to new ideas, strategies, and connections that can accelerate your progress. Being proactive about where you spend your time is just as important as who you spend it with. Changing your environment often requires a tough decision. It may mean distancing yourself from people who hold you back, leaving spaces that are unproductive, or limiting exposure to negative media and influences. This is not about abandoning relationships or responsibilities, but about prioritizing your growth and setting boundaries that protect your energy and focus. Making these changes can be uncomfortable initially, but the long-term benefits are profound. Another consideration is the environment you create internally. Your mental and emotional space is influenced by your surroundings, but is also shaped by your own thought, self-talk, and beliefs. Internal clutter, self-doubt, and negativity can be just as harmful as an external environment that is unsupportive. Discipline, mindfulness, and intentional focus on positive, growth-oriented thinking help cultivate an internal environment that supports your goals and resilience. The concept of environment also extends to opportunity. Being in an environment where ambition, growth, and learning are valued naturally exposes you to opportunities for advancement. These environments often provide resources, mentorship, and guidance that are crucial for achieving success. Conversely, remaining in stagnant environments limits exposure to possibilities, slows progress, and reinforces mediocrity. The people, places, and systems you immerse yourself in can determine the trajectory of your life in ways that effort alone cannot. Another aspect of managing your environment is eliminating distractions. Distractions are often subtle. A noisy space, excessive notifications, or unstructured routines can fragment attention and reduce efficiency. Cultivating an environment that minimizes interruptions and supports focus is essential for high performance. Intentionality in designing your environment ensures that your actions are aligned with your priority rather than pulled in multiple directions by external stimuli. Your environment also plays a role in shaping your emotional responses. Negative or chaotic surroundings can heighten stress, anxiety, and frustration, while a supportive and organized environment fosters calm, focus, and confidence. Emotional regulation is influenced not only by your internal mindset, but also by the external conditions that surround you. Designing an environment that promotes positivity and focus enhances your ability to perform consistently under pressure. It is also worth noting that your environment influences your identity. Who you spend time with, what you focus on, and the spaces you inhabit all reinforce a sense of self. For example, being immersed in an environment where excellence, learning, and accountability are the norms makes it easier to internalize those qualities. Conversely, environments that normalize mediocrity or complacency make it harder to develop high standards. Your identity is shaped by the patterns and influences present in your surroundings. Another critical component is adaptability. Sometimes the environments we find ourselves in cannot be changed immediately. In those situations, learning to adapt while maintaining focus and discipline is crucial. This might involve creating microenvironments that support your goals, such as a dedicated workspace, focused study periods, or time spent with people who uplift you even if your broader environment challenging. Adaptability allows you to navigate less than ideal conditions without sacrificing progress. Environment also intersects with opportunity cost. Every hour spent in a negative or unproductive environment is an hour not spent in a space that could accelerate growth. Being intentional about how, where, and with whom you spend your time ensures that your energy is invested in areas that yield the greatest return. Recognizing this helps you prioritize environments that align with your goals and long-term vision. Furthermore, your environment affects your long-term habits and routines. Consistent exposure to supportive influences makes positive behavior feel natural and easier to sustain. Conversely, being constantly exposed to negativity, distraction, or complacency makes it much harder to maintain consistency. Designing an environment that reinforces your desired routines ensures that your success is not left to chance, but is structured and reliable. Your environment also has an impact on creativity and problem solving. Environments that encourage curiosity, experimentation, and learning stimulate innovation and growth. Conversely, restrictive, negative, or stagnant environments can stifle ideas and limit potential. The conditions in which you operate influence the quality of your thinking, the risks you are willing to take, and the solutions you generate. Finally, recognizing the power of your environment is empowering because it is within your control. While you may not be able to control every external factor, you can make conscious decisions about who you spend time with, where you go, and what influences you allow into your life. By curating your environment intentionally, you set yourself up for success, enhance your mindset, and create the conditions that make consistent growth possible. When you commit to shaping your environment, both externally and internally, you gain leverage over your outcomes. You no longer leave your success to chance, circumstances, or other people. Instead, you create a fertile space for growth, achievement, and excellence. Your environment becomes a tool, a force that supports and amplifies your efforts rather than undermining them. The influence of environment is ongoing. It is not a one-time adjustment, but a continuous process of evaluation, refinement, and intentionality. By consistently aligning your surroundings with your goals, values, and vision, you create a life in which progress becomes inevitable. You position yourself to act with focus, energy, and purpose, and you ensure that every element of your life is contributing to your growth rather than detracting from it. Ultimately, the environment you choose determines how far you can go. It affects your habits, mindset, resilience, opportunities, and identity. The people you surround yourself with, the spaces you occupy, and the influences you allow into your life either lift you towards your potential or keep you trapped in mediocrity. By taking control of your environment, you take control of your life, creating the conditions necessary to thrive, excel, and achieve the greatness you are capable of. Success is not something that comes to those who wait passively. It is earned through deliberate effort, relentless persistence, and a refusal to quit. Many people confuse talent, luck, or opportunity with the primary drivers of success. But the truth is far simpler and yet far more demanding. Consistent action and perseverance determine who achieves their goals and who remains stagnant. Persistence is a trait that separates those who talk about their dreams from those who live them. And it is a quality that can be cultivated by anyone willing to endure discomfort, setbacks, and repeated failure. Persistence begins with mindset. It is rooted in the understanding that challenges are inevitable and that setbacks do not define your potential. Those who succeed consistently embrace obstacles as part of the journey, not as insurmountable barriers. They understand that failure is not a reflection of personal inadequacy, but a necessary component of growth and learning. Developing this mindset requires a shift in perspective, from fearing failure to using it as a guide, from avoiding discomfort to seeking the lessons within it. A key element of persistence is consistency. Progress is rarely linear, and results are often delayed. Those who persist recognize that effort compounded over time produces results far greater than sporadic bursts of action. Consistency is the bridge between intention and achievement. It is what turns small daily choices into significant outcomes. Even when motivation wanes or challenges seem overwhelming, the act of continuing to move forward, even in small ways, keeps you on the path towards success. Another critical component of persistence, adaptability. Life does not follow a predictable script, and challenges often require adjusting strategies without abandoning the goal. Those who persist are not rigid. They are flexible enough to pivot when necessary while maintaining unwavering commitment to their ultimate objectives. This balance between steadfastness and adaptability ensures that persistence does not become stubbornness, allowing for growth even in the face of changing circumstances. Persistence also demands resilience. Setbacks, failures, and disappointments are inevitable on any path towards significant achievement. Without resilience, these obstacles can derail progress and crush confidence. But when resilience is paired with persistence, setbacks become stepping stones rather than stumbling blocks. Each challenge endured strengthens character, sharpens skills, and builds the confidence necessary to confront future difficulties. Resilient persistence transforms adversity into opportunity and equips you with the mental toughness to sustain effort over the long haul. Motivation alone is insufficient for sustained progress. While motivation can spark initial action, it fluctuates and is unreliable over time. Persistence is what carries you forward when enthusiasm fades. It is the commitment to continue working even when the emotional high of inspiration has passed. Those who persist rely on discipline and habit, not temporary feelings, to maintain momentum. By building routines that support long-term goals, persistent individuals reduce reliance on fleeting motivation and create a sustainable framework for success. Another dimension of persistence is goal clarity. Without a clear sense of direction, effort can become scattered and inefficient. Persistent individuals define their objectives precisely, understanding not only what they want to achieve, but also why it matters. This clarity provides the focus and determination necessary to continue, even when the path is challenging or progress is slow. Goals act as anchors, guiding persistent effort and providing a metric for measuring incremental progress. Persistence also involves a willingness to learn continuously. Those who achieve remarkable outcomes understand that mistakes and failures are our opportunities for insight. Each setback provides feedback, highlighting areas for improvement and revealing strategies that are effective or ineffective. Persistent individuals embrace lifelong learning, refining their approach, and enhancing their skills through reflection, experimentation, and deliberate practice. This commitment to improvement ensures that effort is not wasted and that each action contributes meaningfully to long-term success. The process of persistence requires patience. Significant goals are rarely accomplished overnight, and the results of sustained effort often take time to manifest. Impatience can undermine persistence, leading to premature abandonment or reactive decision. Those who persist understand that success is a marathon, not a sprint. They focus on steady progress, celebrating small victories while keeping their eyes on the ultimate objective. Patience reinforces persistence by allowing time for effort to compound and for results to emerge naturally. Accountability is another factor that strengthens persistence. Those who are accountable to themselves or others are more likely to continue taking action when challenges arise. Accountability can take many forms: a mentor, a coach, a peer group, or even self-imposed standards. By creating systems of accountability, persistent individuals ensure that they remain committed to their objectives, even when external circumstances or internal resistance make it tempting to give up. Persistence also builds confidence. Every step taken, every obstacle overcome, and every goal achieved reinforces the belief in one's ability to succeed. This confidence is critical because doubt can undermine effort, causing hesitation or withdrawal. Persistent individuals develop self-assurance through action, understanding that their capacity to endure challenges is built on experience rather than mere belief. Confidence and persistence reinforce each other, creating a cycle of growth and achievement. Another aspect of persistence is courage. It takes courage to continue when failure seems likely, when progress is slow, or when others doubt your abilities. Each act of persistence is an act of courage. The courage to face uncertainty, to confront fear, and to take action despite discomfort. Courageous persistence enables individuals to pursue ambitious goals that others might avoid, pushing beyond perceived limits and achieving outcomes that seem impossible to those who quit too early. Persistence also requires strategic focus. Effort without direction can lead to wasted energy and frustration. Those who persist are deliberate about where they invest their time, energy, and resources. They focus on actions that align with their objectives, prioritize high-impact tasks, and eliminate distractions that drain effort without producing results. Strategic focus ensures that persistence is effective, not just prolonged activity. Networking and support systems play a role in sustaining persistence. While persistence ultimately an individual trait, having a supportive environment enhances resilience and motivation. Being around individuals who encourage challenge and provide perspective reinforces the commitment to continue despite difficulties. Support systems act as catalysts, providing insight, advice, and reinforcement that make the path of persistence more navigable and sustainable. Self-discipline is inseparable from persistence. Discipline structures effort, creates habits, and ensures that consistent action is taken even when desire or motivation wanes. Without discipline, persistence can become sporadic, depending on emotion rather than commitment. By cultivating self-discipline, individuals reinforce their capacity to persist systematically, transforming intention into measurable progress. Persistence is also a test of values and priority. It forces individuals to confront what they truly care about and whether they are willing to endure difficulty to achieve it. Those who persist align their actions with deeply held values, which provides the emotional fuel necessary to continue when external rewards are delayed or absent. This alignment between values and action strengthens both motivation and resilience. Another dimension of persistence, adaptability in the face of failure. Setbacks are inevitable, but persistent individuals analyze these challenges, adjust their approach, and continue moving forward. They view failure as a temporary obstacle rather than a permanent defeat. This iterative process, attempting, failing, learning, and adjusting, exemplifies the essence of persistence, forward momentum despite adversity. Persistence also fosters creativity and problem solving. Continuous effort in pursuit of a goal exposes you to repeated challenges that require innovative solutions. Over time, persistent individuals develop the ability to navigate obstacles more effectively, identifying opportunities where others see only barriers. This creative adaptability enhances both the efficiency and effectiveness of their efforts, amplifying the impact of persistence. The emotional resilience developed through persistence cannot be overstated. Facing repeated challenges, criticism, and uncertainty strengthens emotional regulation, patience, and mental fortitude. Persistent individuals are better equipped to manage stress, maintain focus, and act rationally under pressure. These qualities not only support goal achievement, but also enhance overall well-being and personal growth. Persistence also influences reputation and credibility. Those who consistently follow through, endure challenges, and achieve results earn the trust and respect of others. This credibility creates opportunities, opens doors, and fosters relationships that support further growth. Persistence, therefore, is not only a personal attribute, but also a social asset that enhances influence and access to resources. Over time, persistence compounds results. Each action, decision, and effort builds upon the last, creating momentum that accelerates progress. Small, consistent steps toward a goal accumulate into significant achievements, demonstrating that persistence is not about dramatic, isolated efforts, but sustained, deliberate action. The compounding effect of persistence is one of the most powerful mechanisms for long-term success. Ultimately, persistence, a mindset, a habit, and a strategy, is the conscious decision to continue pursuing your goals despite obstacles, discomfort, and setbacks. It requires discipline, resilience, focus, courage, and patience. Those who master persistence understand that success is rarely instantaneous and that the journey is as important as the outcome. They embrace challenges as opportunities for growth, maintain consistent effort even when progress is slow, and adapt intelligently when circumstances change. Persistence is not merely an attribute, it is a lifestyle. It defines how you approach your work, relationships, personal development, and long-term goals. By cultivating persistence, you develop the capacity to endure, overcome, and achieve beyond what seems possible. It transforms ambition into accomplishment, potential into reality, and intention into measurable success. Because in the end, The people who achieve greatness are not always the most talented or the luckiest. They are the ones who persist. They are the ones who continue when others quit, who endure when others falter, and who refuse to allow temporary setbacks to define their trajectory. Persistence is the unyielding force that bridges the gap between dreams and reality. It is the difference between those who talk about what they want and those who actually create it. Success is often perceived as a destination, a single moment of triumph or recognition, but in reality, it is a journey defined by the small, consistent actions that compound over time. One of the most powerful forces in shaping that journey is accountability. Accountability is the conscious commitment to take responsibility for your actions, decisions, and results. It is the bridge between intention, ensuring that what you say aligns with what you do. Without accountability, even the most ambitious goals can remain unfulfilled, lost to procrastination, excuses, and inconsistency. Accountability begins with self-awareness. To hold yourself accountable, you must first understand where you stand, what you are doing, and what results you are producing. It requires an honest assessment of your strengths, weaknesses, habits, and patterns of behavior. Self-awareness is uncomfortable because it forces you to confront areas where you are falling short, where excuses have replaced action, and where inconsistency has slowed progress. Yet this clarity is essential because without knowing the truth about yourself, accountability cannot exist. You cannot improve what you do not acknowledge. Once self-awareness is established, accountability requires a commitment to taking responsibility. This means accepting that your choices, actions, and even inactions are the primary drivers of your outcomes. It means letting go of blame, avoiding the trap of attributing failures to circumstance, other people, or bad luck. Every action you take or fail to take shapes the results you experience. Accountability transforms you from a passive observer of your life into an active participant, giving you the power to influence your trajectory rather than surrendering it to chance. Accountability is also closely tied to goal setting. Clear, measurable goals create a benchmark for accountability because they define what success looks like and provide a standard against which progress can be measured. Without defined goals, it is impossible to know whether your actions are effective or sufficient. Goals give your efforts direction, focus, and purpose, and accountability ensures that you continuously evaluate whether your behavior aligns with those objectives. The combination of clarity and responsibility creates a system where progress is not accidental, but intentional. Another essential element of accountability is tracking progress. Many people set goals, but fail to monitor their actions or measure results. Without tracking, it is easy to deceive yourself into believing you are moving forward when in reality you may be stagnating. Accountability requires regular reflection, assessment, and adjustment. It involves asking hard questions. Are my actions producing the desired results? Am I giving my best effort consistently? Where can I improve? This process keeps you honest and ensures that effort translates into meaningful progress. Accountability also demands discipline. It requires the ability to follow through on commitments even when motivation wanes, when challenges arise, or when distractions threaten to derail you. Discipline ensures that accountability is not just a theoretical concept, but a practical daily application. It bridges the gap between knowing what to do and actually doing it, turning intentions into tangible actions that produce results. Without discipline, accountability remains abstract and goals remain unrealized. External accountability can further strengthen personal responsibility. While self-accountability is crucial, having others hold you responsible can amplify your commitment and performance. This can take the form of mentors, coaches, peers, or supportive communities. External accountability introduces a social dimension, adding both motivation and pressure to follow through. When someone else knows your goals and tracks your progress, you are less likely to make excuses or avoid action. The awareness that others are observing your efforts creates an added incentive to perform consistently. Accountability also intersects with integrity. True accountability requires honesty with yourself and others. It is not about appearing responsible or saying the right things. It is about aligning actions with words. When you commit to something, accountability ensures that you follow through even when it is inconvenient. uncomfortable, or challenging. Integrity strengthens credibility, builds trust, and reinforces personal confidence, creating a cycle where accountability naturally fuels more consistent and effective action. Another critical aspect of accountability is learning from mistakes. Accountability does not mean perfection. It means ownership. When setbacks occur or outcomes fall short, accountable individuals do not deflect blame or dwell on excuses. Instead, they analyze what went wrong, identify areas for improvement, and adjust their approach. This reflective process transforms failure into a powerful tool for growth. By consistently learning from errors and making corrections, accountability becomes a driver of continuous improvement and long-term success. Accountability also fosters resilience. Life presents obstacles, setbacks, and unpredictable challenges that test commitment and persistence. When you hold yourself accountable, you develop the mental and emotional strength to confront difficulties without giving up. Each time you take responsibility for your actions and continue moving forward despite adversity, you build resilience. Over time, this resilience becomes a habit, strengthening your ability to face increasingly complex challenges with confidence and composure. Time management is another area where accountability plays a vital role. Every hour wasted or mismanaged represents a lost opportunity for progress. Being accountable means treating time as a valuable resource and consistently using it to advance toward your goals. It involves planning, prioritizing, and executing with intention, ensuring that your daily actions align with long-term objectives. By holding yourself accountable for how you spend your time, you maximize productivity and minimize wasted effort. Accountability also strengthens commitment. When you hold yourself responsible, you reinforce your dedication to your goals. You internalize the understanding that progress is the result of consistent, deliberate action, not luck or external factors. This commitment ensures that effort remains consistent even during periods of low motivation or external challenges. It transforms accountability from a reactive practice into a proactive habit that drives sustained achievement. Emotional maturity is intertwined with accountability. Accepting responsibility for your actions requires the ability to manage emotions such as fear, frustration, and ego. It demands humility to acknowledge mistakes, courage to confront uncomfortable truths, and self-control to stay focused on constructive actions. Emotional maturity enables accountability to function effectively because it allows you to respond rationally and purposefully rather than react impulsively or defensively. Accountability also affects relationships and social dynamics. People respect and trust those who consistently follow through on commitments. Whether in personal or professional context, accountable individuals build stronger connections because others can rely on them. This reliability creates opportunities, fosters collaboration, and enhances influence. In contrast, a lack of accountability erodes trust, damages credibility, and limits the potential for meaningful relationships and opportunities. Another dimension of accountability is self-motivation. While external accountability can provide reinforcement, true personal growth comes from internalizing responsibility. Self-motivated accountability ensures that you take action even when no one is watching. It fosters independent initiative and a proactive mindset. When you develop the ability to hold yourself accountable consistently, you no longer rely solely on external pressures to perform. You become self-directed and driven. Accountability also intersects with vision and purpose. When you have a clear understanding of your goals and the reasons behind them, holding yourself accountable becomes more meaningful. The why behind your actions fuels commitment, provides motivation during difficult periods, and guides decision-making. Without purpose, accountability can feel mechanical or punitive. With purpose, it becomes a framework for meaningful progress and fulfillment. Consistency is another hallmark of accountability. Results are rarely the product of isolated actions. They emerge from repeated, deliberate effort over time. Accountability ensures that you maintain this consistency, tracking actions, evaluating outcomes, and adjusting as needed. Each small step builds momentum, reinforcing habits, skills, and confidence. The compounding effect of consistent, accountable action is what separates those who achieve their goals from those who fall short. Accountability also nurtures problem-solving skills. When you take full responsibility for your results, you are forced to confront challenges directly and find solutions. Rather than deflecting blame or avoiding difficult decisions, accountable individuals approach problems strategically, identifying root causes, evaluating alternatives, and implementing effective actions. This proactive approach fosters independence, competence, and resilience. Another critical element of accountability is courage. When you focus on what you are thankful for, you approach challenges with confidence and resourcefulness rather than fear and doubt. This mental shift enhances your capacity to handle setbacks, see opportunities where others see obstacles, and maintain motivation even when circumstances are difficult. Gratitude also enhances resilience. Life is full of setbacks, disappointments, and unexpected challenges. Without a strong sense of perspective, these obstacles can be discouraging, leading to frustration or even giving up. Gratitude allows you to see difficulties as temporary, manageable, or even instructive experiences. By recognizing the positives in your life, even amid hardship, you reinforce the belief that you have the resources, support, and capacity to endure and overcome challenges. This psychological buffer strengthens perseverance and reduces the negative impact of stress and adversity. Another crucial dimension of gratitude is its impact on behavior. When you recognize and appreciate what you have, you are more likely to act responsibly, ethically, and proactively. Gratitude fosters humility, which reduces arrogance, entitlement, and reactive behavior. People who are grateful tend to invest effort, maintain discipline, and prioritize actions that align with long-term goals because they understand that their progress is not solely the result of individual effort, but also the result of opportunities, support, and circumstances that must be respected and utilized effectively. Gratitude also improves relationships. Recognizing and appreciating the people who support, encourage, or inspire you strengthens social bonds. Expressing gratitude enhances trust, fosters cooperation, and increases the likelihood of mutual support. Strong, positive relationships are critical for personal and professional growth because they provide encouragement, guidance, mentorship, and opportunities. By cultivating gratitude, you reinforce these relationships, creating a network that supports your goals and amplifies your efforts. A key component of gratitude is perspective. In moments of challenge, it is easy to focus solely on what is missing or what is going wrong. Gratitude shifts the focus to what is present, what is working, and what has already been achieved. This perspective reduces anxiety, stress, and frustration, allowing you to act with greater clarity and effectiveness. By maintaining awareness of the positives in your life, you prevent negative emotions from clouding judgment and derailing progress. Gratitude also intersects with motivation. When you appreciate the progress you have already made, the resources you have access to, and the opportunities available, it fuels further effort. Recognition of what is already working reinforces a sense of possibility and self-efficacy. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by challenges, you approach tasks with energy and determination, understanding that your efforts build upon a foundation that already exists. Gratitude converts awareness into action, reinforcing a cycle of consistent progress. In addition, gratitude fosters mental and emotional health. Studies have shown that individuals who practice gratitude experience lower levels of stress, depression, and anxiety. They report higher levels of satisfaction, happiness, and well-being. This emotional stability is essential for sustained achievement because it allows you to operate from a place of clarity, focus, and balance rather than reacting impulsively to stressors or setbacks. Gratitude provides a foundation of emotional resilience that supports consistent action over time. Gratitude also encourages long-term thinking. By recognizing the factors and individuals that contribute to success, you are more likely to make decisions that are thoughtful, sustainable, and aligned with core values. It discourages short-term impulsivity and fosters responsibility. People who practice gratitude often consider how their actions affect others in the broader context, leading to wiser choices and greater alignment with long-term objectives. Gratitude, therefore, acts as a stabilizing force that supports strategic thinking. Another important aspect is that gratitude strengthens accountability. When you acknowledge the contributions of others, the opportunities you have, and the privileges at your disposal, you become more aware of the responsibility to act effectively. Whoa. Gratitude enhances a sense of duty to maximize potential, honor, support, and create results. This awareness naturally reinforces discipline, focus, and commitment because success is no longer viewed solely as an individual achievement, but as a responsibility to contribute and act with purpose. Gratitude also fosters creativity. By appreciating the resources, knowledge, and relationships at your disposal, you are better able to leverage them in innovative ways. Recognition of opportunities, exploration, problem solving, and experimentation. A mindset grounded in gratitude is open to possibilities and solutions, whereas a mindset dominated by scarcity or frustration can become rigid and risk-averse. By seeing what is available and valuing it, creativity is naturally amplified. Gratitude strengthens perspective on failure and setbacks. When challenges arise, a grateful mindset prevents you from becoming trapped in negativity or self-pity. Instead, it encourages reflection on what lessons can be learned and what resources are still available to move forward. This approach transforms setbacks into opportunities for growth, allowing you to maintain momentum even when circumstances are difficult. Gratitude transforms adversity from a roadblock into a teacher. Gratitude is also essential for sustaining momentum. Progress often requires long-term effort, and motivation alone can fluctuate. A grateful mindset reinforces the sense of progress and achievement, which provides psychological fuel for continued action. When you regularly acknowledge the steps you have taken, the support you have received, and the resources at your disposal, it strengthens determination and reduces the likelihood of burnout or discouragement. Gratitude acts as a sustaining force, keeping you engaged and motivated over time. Another dimension is that gratitude encourages humility. Recognizing that success is not solely the product of talent or effort fosters an understanding of interdependence and context. Humility allows you to remain teachable, receptive to feedback, and willing to improve continuously. It reduces arrogance, entitlement, and complacency, which are major barriers to growth. Humility paired with gratitude creates a mindset that is both grounded and ambitious, aware of limitations yet committed to progress. Gratitude also fosters a sense of abundance. By focusing on what you have rather than what you lack, you cultivate a mindset of possibility rather than limitation. Abundance thinking encourages risk-taking, learning, and proactive behavior because the fear of loss is reduced. When you appreciate your resources, skills, and opportunity, you are more likely to act confidently, pursue ambitious goals, and leverage your environment effectively. Gratitude shifts the focus from scarcity to opportunity, which is essential for achievement. Gratitude also nurtures patience. Recognizing that progress takes time and that every effort contributes to long-term outcomes helps reduce frustration and impulsivity. It teaches endurance by highlighting incremental gains and cumulative progress rather than immediate results. With gratitude, you can maintain focus on long-term objectives, appreciating the process and trusting that consistent effort will yield results. Furthermore, gratitude reinforces connection to purpose. When you appreciate the opportunities, challenges, and relationships in your life, it strengthens awareness of why your goals matter. Purpose-driven action is more sustainable and resilient because it is grounded in meaning rather than obligation or external reward. Gratitude enhances this connection by creating a conscious awareness of the larger context in which your efforts exist. Finally, gratitude is a practice, not a passive state. It requires intentional reflection, acknowledgement, and expression. Writing down what you are grateful for, expressing thanks to others, or simply pausing to recognize progress are ways to cultivate gratitude consistently. The more frequently gratitude is practiced, the more it reshapes thinking, emotional resilience, and behavior. It transforms the way you perceive challenges, opportunities, and your capacity to achieve. Ultimately, gratitude is not a luxury. It is a foundational principle of personal and professional growth. It shapes mindset, reinforces resilience, amplifies motivation, strengthens relationships, and sustains long-term effort. Those who cultivate gratitude develop a perspective that transforms obstacles into opportunities, challenges into lessons, and effort into progress. Gratitude ensures that success is not only measured in accomplishments, but also in awareness, appreciation, and responsible action. By practicing gratitude consistently, you align your mindset, behavior, and energy toward creating a life of purpose, impact, and meaningful achievement.